Aloha everybody, and welcome to the Wild Wahine. This is Kaylani, and this is your astro forecast for this upcoming week. So we're going to be talking about three major transits that I handpicked for you that I think are going to be important for this upcoming week. So we tell you all of this astrological information so that you can make fantastic choices in your life. So we're going to start off with Saturn square Uranus, which is basically a part 2 this week. The first part was in last week's video, so make sure you watch that video. We're going to talk about a little bit more on the internal landscape. Then we're going to talk about Jupiter moving retrograde on the 20th and what that has in store for us. And then we're going to talk about the sun moving into the sign of Cancer, which also coincides with the summer solstice. So we're going to start off with Saturn squaring Uranus, part 2. So make sure that if you haven't watched last week's video, you definitely make sure you watch the video and then tune in to this one. So this one is going to be a little bit more internal, how this is going to affect us. Just as a recap for Saturn, Saturn is associated with Kronos, is associated with the crone and the triple goddess, with wisdom, with difficult times. Saturn is a malefic planet, so the reward comes after a risk. The reward comes after hard work. It's about structure. It's the bones of something. It's about boundaries, which is actually really good to have because we need them sometimes to hold ourselves in, and so that we know we can differentiate between what's us and what's somebody else. It's about delays, so things that happen over a long period of time, about reaping the rewards after a lot of work put in or just after some time. It's really like layering the bricks step by step, like Karate Kid, Mr. Miyagi, wax on, wax off. After you've cleaned all the cars, then you learn karate kind of energy, you know, like that's just kind of sort of what it is. Uranus has a completely different energy than that, very different. It's very electric. It's very like the light bulb went off and now you have it. It's that Neo, like I know Kung Fu from the Matrix, like instantaneous information that was downloaded, whether you gain that because somebody gave you information, maybe something happened suddenly, a sudden shift in your life. It can be an accident, it can be a disruption. It's definitely a shift, and it's moving with that shift. It's creative breakthroughs. It's really there to shake you up where you are stagnant, where you are stuck. That is the whole point of it. And we need that constantly. We need to stick the landing, and then we need to be pushed off of, you know, the platform. And that is a cycle that we go through all the time. And essentially 2021 is filled with that. So this is what we're doing, you know, for this year. And this is the second time that the Saturn-Uranus square has been exact. It was exact on Monday, and then we're going to kind of sort of feel it for the next couple of weeks. So what does this mean in terms of the internal landscape? Well, massive breakthroughs is the first thing. Like if there's something that you've been working really hard on and you just haven't been able to gain any traction on, it's just been difficult. It's like the bane of your existence. This is great energy for that. So even though like this signature can sometimes mean like, accidents and things are not working and my car, which is literally me, like car issues, Mercury retrograde too, just don't even ask. But sometimes you're like, but then there's things that you break through. There's other things like paperwork and things I needed to fill out in forms and just, you know, this heavy document, like total mercurial stuff that I've just been like, I don't want to do. I don't want to deal with. I hate this stuff, that I just was like, okay, I'm going to get in there, and I did it, and it feels so good. So breaking through those things so that you can get the things that you want to do, all the places where you're stagnant, having a breakthrough, having a physical breakthrough, like if you're a bodybuilder or if you had a certain weight you wanted to get to, whether that would be gaining or losing or whatever it is that you wanted to do, like those goals that you're just like, oh, I'm just chucking away at this and nothing's happening. This is the energy for that. So like you can use this energy for that. A lot of times you can see a lot of like tension. This energy, you know, has a lot of tension. It's the tension of the past and the future. It's the tension between the young and the old. It's the tension between having a strict structure and flowing with things. So you're moving between those two things. And as you're moving, you're learning how to be more fluid. You're learning how to be like bamboo. And, you know, you have that level of flexibility and you're not breaking. And that's kind of what this is. But even if you do break, because that does happen during this time, you're able to rebuild and restructure well. So some of the challenging aspects, and there's a lot, which I went into in my last video, you can have this overall feeling of kind of like disaster, or feeling like I'm so afraid to take a risk. I'm afraid to do things because I think that, something might happen that's not good. Or what if I take this risk and it doesn't work out? And, I don't want to put myself out there. Where this is really like I'm pushing you to put yourself out there kind of energy. So the feeling of I don't want to do anything, if I don't do anything, if I don't change anything, then nothing will happen, And so like that kind of thing will keep you kind of inside. It's gonna happen anyway. You can't really hide from change. It'll happen and manifest even if you keep yourself in the safest space, even if you dotted all your I's and crossed all your T's, it's still coming. So you have to kind of sort of learn how to create a new relationship with change, and what does that mean for you, and how you can pad yourself. You can pad yourself with it, but it's going to come nonetheless, because that's life, right? And we have to kind of sort of shake things up. Dealing with accidents, obviously, dealing with like collapse of structure, especially things that have been a structure or the backbone of your life. Sometimes those things just go kaput, whether that be relationships, whether that can be jobs. It also, it depends on what house it's in, all of those kind of upheavals of things. But it's also like this was maybe not a great relationship. Maybe you've been hiding from the fact that it was really not what you wanted, or it was like abusive or toxic of some sort, and you just really didn't know what to do to get out of it. You felt stuck. Well, it's over, and now you're shifting to something else. Same thing with the job, like, it pays the bills and all of that, but you don't like it. It's like wearing out your body, it's wearing out your mind, and then it's closed, it's over, and now you're like, and you're like, this wasn't what I wanted. I wanted like the other job first. And that's just not always how it happens. Sometimes we just do have like things kind of stripped from us, and then we have to kind of figure out what we're doing. And that is all Saturn stuff. Like, okay, it's stripped from me, and now I'm going to have to like put in the work to get to the next phase. And then you kind of don't see that reward until later on. But that kind of instant removal is very like Saturn Uranus. There's also a thing that can happen too, like on the flip side, that can be a bit challenging, is like if you've been having a difficult time, or you've had some sort of like difficulty doing things, difficulty manifesting things, had some sort of, if it's a group of people, oppression of some sort, breaking free of that and saying, okay, like I'm free of that and I'm doing it. But then that Saturn aspect comes back in and is like, okay, but now I'm going to make sure it never happens to me again. The oppressor becomes the oppressed, the innocent becomes the villain. So we have to be very careful of that, especially if we're breaking free of a difficult situation, and now we have our power. And it's like, how do you wield that power? Do you wield that power to bring good in the world, to protect people so that they're never in that vulnerable state like you were? Or do you use that power to do negative things to people and hurt people so that they will never be able to hurt you? It's all about perspective and the way that you look at it. So next, we're talking about Jupiter moving retrograde. It's going to be retrograde all the way until October 20th, 2021. So this Jupiter in Pisces, which is Jupiter at home, Jupiter in its like sweet, beautiful place, that was just like a little peekaboo that we got. So there is a lot more Jupiter and Aquarian type energy that we need to deal with, which is also going to feed into this Saturn-Uranus square, right? Because Saturn and Jupiter will be in the same sign, which is Aquarius. So Jupiter, which is a benefic planet, so it's bringing like all of the luck, it's essentially our higher mind, it's our belief system, it's how we think of things, it's like our higher self and our religious self, it's our spiritual self, it's how we see ourselves, it's the big picture of things. Education and higher education, it has to do with well-being and like having a healthy sense of a healthy attitude, a healthy mind, a lot of times a healthy body, depending upon where it is in your chart. So it's slowing down right now and moving retrograde and actually changing signs back into Aquarius. So when Jupiter was in Pisces, we were feeling our way through things. We were feeling how did things feel? We were imagining things. We were creating things in our mind. We also might have been escaping things, maybe things were a little bit difficult, things were a little bit rough, and we didn't want to deal with them, so we can kind of sort of hide and escape from it. However we've been spending our time with Jupiter in Pisces, it's now moving back into the sign of Aquarius. It's going to be co-present with Saturn, which is daddy. So I kind of like, it's like a college student who was like away for the summer and they were doing like summer break fun stuff, which is like Jupiter and Pisces. And now it's like, it's going back to college, which is now like Jupiter in Aquarius, where it still will have fun. It still will learn things. There's a lot of fun, amazing things in college, meeting friends and all of that, but you still have to put in the work. You still have to study. You still have to go to bed at a certain time so that you can do your homework and all of that. There's a certain amount of responsibility that you have to have when you're in school as opposed to when you're on summer break. Some of the things that you did summer break, some of the experiences that you had summer break are going to come back with you, and you're kind of taking them into this next semester. You're a year older. You've had a different type of experience. And so it's the same thing. We're bringing them now into Aquarius, and now it's time for us to build and to create some structure. So as Jupiter moves into Aquarius, we move into a thinking place. We move into a place where we're having creative freedom. We're thinking more in terms of it being an intellectual. We're thinking about moving things forward. We're thinking about the collective. We're thinking about, but the collective in a different way. Like, how can I build things for the collective? Not just about how can I make the collective feel good. So what are the things that we're changing? What is the new structure that we're creating? You know, I'm really thinking about myself as an individual, but I'm an individual with the collective group. So the lunar eclipse happened on May 26th. So whatever it was that was lost, whatever it was that was challenged, whatever it was that was transformed at this time might be a really strong indicator of what's happening with Jupiter moving back into the sign of Aquarius. Like, based on what was lost, based on the knowledge that you gained, based on the new person that you are, because you might not exactly be the same person that you were before. Like, what are you bringing forward? What are you building from the information that you have? What are your change of beliefs? How are you kind of living your life now? It might really feel like a fundamental change in who you are, like in your core being, like in terms of what you want to do with your life, or how you see things, how you perceive things, how you want to be perceived, and how you're perceiving the world around you. Remember that Saturn is there, so whenever Saturn's there, there's going to be a lot of rules, there's going to be a lot of checks, there's going to be you're not going to be able to go too way off in your innovation, too way off in your progressivism. It's always going to have a check on it, and it's always going to be this kind of sort of back and forth energy with that. And we're going to see that in our personal lives, and we're definitely going to see that in terms of government, in terms of the way that things are kind of orchestrated around the world. So the sun is entering the sign of Cancer, and that is happening on the 20th. And there we have the summer solstice. So we here in the northern hemisphere will be experiencing the longest day of the year, and it's going to be the marked beginning of summer. If you are in the southern hemisphere, then you are experiencing the shortest day, and it is the mark of winter. So Cancer season. The sun moving into the sign of Cancer. Cancer is a cardinal sign, so it is directly on a point where we're moving in a directional way. Here we're back at cardinal. From the first cardinal that we had was Aries. So it's a cardinal water feminine sign, or yin sign. So we have the movement towards summer, the movement towards the longest light that we have in the year. And then after that day, the days get shorter and shorter and shorter. And Cancer is ruled by the moon. So really, I would say for this Cancer season, we really want to pay a lot of attention to the moon. And I will definitely be talking about that in other chats, and just probably posting a lot of stuff about the moon this month on my Instagram. So make sure you're following me on Instagram at _wild_wahine. So, a water sign is an emotional sign. Cancer is essentially a lot of times associated with things that are the mother or of the mother. It is a nurturer. It is a holder of space. It is a protector. It likes security. It also likes to engage and enact, but it engages and enacts just like the crab. It's symbol in a very kind of back and forth way, maybe like 2 steps forwards, 1 step back, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back kind of way. It definitely filters everything through the feeling space. It is an emotional space. We're coming out of the mind place where we've been in our mind palace, all of Gemini season, and it's like time to give our minds a rest, because we've been just brains with legs this whole time, and now we're kind of dropping into the body, because that is the moon, right? We're dropping in more into the body. We're dropping into our intuition. We're dropping into the things that make us want to nurture, want to be around around the water. So we're gonna obviously, at least in the northern hemisphere, see so many water activities. So make sure you go out and spend some time in the water. It's about home. It's about protection. So even though all of us have kind of sort of been home for quite some time and we're like, we can't wait to get out of home. Well, you might want to go out of home, but then you might want to go into someone else's home, right? Because it's been a long time since you've been able to be in someone else's home and experience their cooking and sit on their really nice couch or experience their deck or lanai, and have the barbecue over. So we're going to see home stuff. It might not necessarily be your home, but it'll be like a house party, because when's the last time we've all been able to have that? So going into someone else's home, feeling secure, being nurtured in a home type of space and environment is something that we're going to see, I think, with the sun in Cancer. It's a creative energy. So again, like with a lot of water signs, you're creating things, you're kind of going into the abyss, going into this quiet space and birthing things, especially since it's associated with the mother. So there's a giving birth of ideas because it's also cardinal. It really has a lot to do with how you're nurtured and how you nurture others. How are you taking care of yourself? How do you take care of your family or take care of the people that are in your life? So a lot of self-care stuff is going to come up. I really think that like Cancer season is like self-care season. That is the time that you're taking to really like take care of the body, take care of the mind, because it's been just exploded in Gemini, So we're taking care of ourselves. So this would be like in kind of really like beautiful ways, like baths and like lotions and like massages and like going to the ocean and like gentle exercises or yoga and stretching and all of those kinds of things that'll be really beautiful for the body. So if I were to talk about one of the superpowers that Cancer has, I would say definitely intuition. It can be used in so many ways. It can be used to like someone intuitive really knows how to take care of you, like when they know what you need. They know you're tired, so they do things so that you can go and lay down and rest. They know you're hungry, so they bring you food. They know you might feel a little irritable, so they make you some tea or give you some space to yourself, or go ahead and take the kids so you can have some downtime. I mean, intuition is such a powerful thing because you can kind of sort of feel into someone else and know what to do. They're also intuitive to know that this is a dangerous space, I shouldn't go there, or this is like unsafe situation, so I'm going to leave from there. So it has a multi-purpose. Some of the challenging things that come from Cancer obviously is with this deep emotionality. With water, sometimes we can just get buried in it. We're buried in the emotions. Emotions first means that the mind is second. Sometimes the mind is third. You're not thinking about the facts, your feelings first, and that can be really difficult, especially if you're in a difficult emotional space or you don't have really good boundaries, which is also a difficult thing to have when you're deeply intuitive, right? So if you're not really having good boundaries and you're just kind of sort of empathying all over everyone and all over the place, it is very difficult to know where you begin and where the other person ends. And so you're picking up on stuff and then you personalize stuff and thinks it's you, and it's just not, So having really strong boundaries is going to be kind of sort of important with this energy and with all of the feelings that are going to come through. And if you've been running for your feelings, they got you. They will have you. Sometimes the energy levels can be really unstable because it's moon rule. The moon is always changing, right? The moon goes through every single sign, every single month, every 28 days. So there's a lot of moodiness in that. And that is like probably the number one thing that people would say about Cancer is like, oh, or water signs in general. Oh, the moods because of the water, but specifically Cancer because of the mood. And whenever the moon is moving and the moods are changing, your physicality changes because the moon is the body. So like one day you'll have a lot of energy and you feel like doing everything and I can take on the world, and then the next day you're like, I can't do anything, my body's done, I can't, like I'm stiff, I am not able to. So regulating the body, which is why self-care for Cancers is so important. They are like the ones that need all of the self-care. So anyway, I just want to thank you guys so much for joining today about this astro forecast. I hope this helps you out, and I hope you can use some of this to support you in this upcoming week and weeks to come. If you guys have any questions, make sure you list them below. If you are interested in having a birth chart reading, find me at www.thewildwahine.as.me. I'm also doing tarot readings over there as well, and oracle card readings. I am every single Wednesday on Clubhouse at The Wild Wahine. We're going to be talking about so many different things. This week we're going to be talking about the clairs, all of the different psychic abilities. We will sometimes be talking about astrology and what's going on in the world, and how it's affecting us. We'll be doing readings at that time, so definitely follow me on Clubhouse. I am at the Wild Wahine on Clubhouse, and I also have a club, the Wild Wahine. Definitely make sure you follow or join the club so that you can be notified of all of the different things that are happening with that. Really excited, really like that platform. So thank you guys so much. I hope you have a wonderful week, and aloha.